Stocks got hit hard today, and the reason, in a word, Syria. Investors here in the U.S. and around the world dumped stocks, worried about the possibility the U.S. and its allies might take military action against Syria over its use of chemical weapons. And so investors moved their money to safe havens like gold, oil, and treasuries. Here's a rundown of the numbers by the closing bell. The major stock averages fell between 1 to 2%. The Dow tumbled 170 points. The Nasdaq lost almost 80, and the S&P down 26 points. Over in the bond market, prices on U.S. treasuries rose, with the yield on the 10-year falling to 2.72%. Meanwhile, gold jumped sharply, up $27 to $1,420 an ounce. And oil also surged. Crude futures gained $3.09, almost 3%, to $109 a barrel. That's its second biggest gain of the year.
Well, the rising tensions between the U.S. and Syria, which has already rattled markets around the world, is also raising questions tonight about what's at stake to the U.S. economy and our nation's reputation if the U.S. military intervenes in that nation's civil war. Michelle Caruso-Cabrera has more on why Syria matters.
Stocks fell again as a second member of the administration made clear military intervention in Syria is increasingly likely. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel today while on an overseas trip.
I think it's pretty clear that chemical weapons were used against people in Syria. I think that the intelligence will conclude that it wasn't the rebels who used it. The deeper we get into this, it seems to me it's clearer and clearer that the government of Syria was responsible.
Those words, the clearest signal yet, perhaps. The U.S. will fulfill the promise President Obama made when he said the use of chemical weapons would be crossing a red line. At stake for the United States, crude and credibility. The price of oil rising steadily in the face of tensions.
Well, if you look at the Brent market, for example, on oil, we see Brent now at 6-month highs because of concerns about what's going on in Syria. What we're closely watching, though, because Syria is not a big oil producer, do we have violence spilling over to key producers like Iraq, OPEC's second largest producer? They've seen a run-up in violence. Some have tied that significantly to what's going on in Syria.
Gold went up as well, hitting an 11-week high as investors sought safety. Bond prices went up for the same reason, too, pushing interest rates lower. The 10-year yield back below 2.8%. The rationale? Many in the investment community believe military action is inevitable in order for the U.S. to maintain credibility.
Clearly, if chemical weapons have been used, and that's a big if, I believe, the United States has to do something. The president has drawn a line in the sand, and for the United States to have any credibility in the region, there has to be a military response.
Analysts argue if the U.S. does not act, foes such as North Korea and Iran will be emboldened. The White House says no firm decision has been made. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Michelle Caruso-Cabrera.